Well, we've covered the case in setting up a subscription and everything just works. Well, what if Stripe returns a bad result and we want to handle that? So heading over to Stripe, let's take a look at their documentation. In here, they have a lot of information about testing and different ways that you can interact with their API and test their webhooks and so on, doing integration tests. Here you can see which card numbers that you can use for testing, and this works great if you're using Stripe Checkout or if you're just bouncing a web page off their API. Down below here, if you want to test specific errors, you sure can. Card declined is, well, one that I can imagine having happened. So let's do that. I'm going to go over to stripe.js here, and I'm just going to change this to be the card declined number. And that should hopefully trigger a Stripe error. And I'll just change some information here to have a different email address. So let's see what happens. I'm just going to call node and then stripe.js and bounce a bad request off of them. And good. As expected, we got a bunch of error information back, including a big fat dump here for stack tracing. And I can use that in my tests later on. Right now what I need to do is I need to work my helpers a little bit because I need to be able to encapsulate the call arguments that I'm sending off to Stripe. I'm going to need that for stubbing. So what I'm going to do here is I am simply going to copy this information and go and crack open my helpers. And I'm going to set up a thing called good Stripe args. And this is just going to be a straight up object. It's going to be test user, test@test.com, and I'll just set this to be commander for the role. And the card is going to be 1. Now remember that, card number 1. Then I'm going to have bad Stripe args. What does that mean? Well, for bad Stripe args, I'm going to set the card to 2. Now, why did I do this? Well, it has to do with the way that Sinon-JS allows stubbing. The only way I can really explain that is to just show it to you. I'm going to use with args, and that means that if I pass in good Stripe args, then it's going to yield a good Stripe response, as you see here. So I'm stubbing the billing instance, and when I call create subscription, if I pass those good args, I'm going to expect that I get a good response, and I do. That is what with args is all about, because it allows you to change which stub fires. Here, I'm going to say with args, bad Stripe args. When that happens, I want a bad Stripe response to come back. This is going to allow me to tweak my stub, if you will. And while very useful, a lot of red flags and bells and whistles are going off in my head. If you find yourself doing things like this, tread lightly and carefully. Let's see if this is going to cause problems. Well, looking at our test, I've got a lot going on in that before function, and it's occurring to me that I should clean things up before I go much farther. Really, what I should be doing is I should be doing all that stubbing and creating the billing process as well as the DB and all that other stuff. I should be doing that in the outermost before block. That's going to orchestrate all this stuff for me right here at the very top level for the review process itself. I don't need it down below for receiving a valid application scenario. All right, let's see if it works. Not this error again. Well, thank goodness. This is just a silly thing that I did here. I'm calling stub twice on the billing instance, and I'm stubbing the create subscription method twice, so of course it's going to fail. But then how would we use with args? Well, the short answer is that we create a billing stub without all the rest of this stuff, and then we use that billing stub down below. So here, I'm just saying, hey, billing stub with args, this is what I want you to do. And then again, I'm saying billing stub with args. This is just using the instance, not trying to re-stub it. Okay, well, now that I've done that, hopefully our test will pass. Let's see. And not quite. Looks like I biffed. Yep, there it is. I biffed having that variable available to the entire test suite. There it is. I need that at the very, very top. Same with billing. Now, you might be thinking, why is Rob showing me all of this? Didn't you practice this demo? And I did. The thing about it is I'm trying to show as much of an organic process as I possibly can. Arranging, organizing, and moving things around your test suite is as much a part of testing as, well, writing assertions. So here I wanted to show how important it is to think constantly about your test organization, where variables are declared, and how you're using them. Okay, well, let's see if our test passes now, and it does. Very nice. Okay, well, that was a bit of a tangent. We were in the middle of trying to test out what happens with failed billing. And I was in the process of coming over here and putting this test in, and I got a little bit sidetracked. Now what I want to do is I want to take this information right here that I declared above, and I'm going to drop it in this block down below. And I'm going to format it so everything looks right. And then right here, I'm going to take our bad billing app, and I'm going to try and change that card number. I'm going to set it to card equal to 2. Seems simple enough. So this is going to trip up the billing process. When it sees 2, Sinon is going to return the bad Stripe response. That bad Stripe response will hopefully cause our review process to fail. At least that's the goal. All right, we'll skip ahead a little bit here. Here is our entire test block. Valid application with failed billing. And I am reusing the valid app from above, and I'm resetting the card to be a 2. That should trip everything up, hopefully. And then I'm calling the review process, as I was doing above. And then I have an assertion down below here that is making sure that it is not successful. Okay, well, let's give it a whirl. Flipping back over to the console, running our tests. Nope. False does not equal true. Can you think of why that would be? Well, if we take a look at the test here, everything seems to be put together okay. How about we console.log our bad billing app, just to be sure that it's what we expect. And up here, indeed, we have a card number of 2. Can you tell what I did wrong? Let's go back and take a look at the test code. It's right here. The bad response is being returned, but async won't trip unless it sees an error in the callback. Card was declined. We actually don't need the bad Stripe response. I just need to send in an error. So that's what I'll do here. Let's give our tests a whirl and see if this works. And nope. This kind of error is insidious. And I'll admit to you, I'm doing it a bit on purpose. Take a look at this failure. The test that we want to pass is passing. But in making it pass, we've made our other tests fail. This is ridiculous. Do you know why this is happening? Unfortunately, this kind of thing is all too common with Node. Let's isolate our one failing test above using only. This is the very first test, the one that says things should be successful. And we'll run it again. Card was declined. Now that's strange. Card number 2. Why is card number 2 being used in this test block up on top? This is supposed to be the successful call with card number 1. In fact, I remember very clearly setting it. But it's card number 2. I think that Mocha is trying to tell us something. When you see weird errors like this, it usually means you're not doing things right. And indeed, the problem is Node's module caching. Every module in Node is a singleton. When you require it, it will be cached in memory. So if you use exports.someObject and you set it to be an object that gets exported, and that is treated as a global singleton. Ouch! But that doesn't explain why things are failing in this way. Well, the short answer is that the describe blocks are read by Mocha first, and then the code is executed. Here, I am setting the card number outside of the before block. Oh man, lots of problems going on here. So it actually resets the card number above before any tests are run. Good organization, not getting too tricky, respecting Node's module caching. All of these things go into writing good tests so you don't bang your head on the table. Okay, well, let's just prove to ourselves that we have solved the problem. I will comment out the card reset right here, and let's rerun the test. And yep, the test passes. But if I was to rerun all of our tests, our invalid card down below, that test would fail. So how can we fix this? Well, there's 2 ways. Let's take a look at the first and most obvious one. If I go into the helpers and rewrite our valid application object to be a function, a constructor, if you will, that returns a new membership application instance, then it'll work. That'll work just fine. That means that I need to go back into my spec file here, my review spec, and make sure above here that our bad billing app is set to a new helpers valid application. That'll give me back a brand new instance. And then I'll need to go to the describe block at the top of our test file here and make sure that I am returning a new valid application, and then over here to our mission application spec and change the code there. It's not all that much. But if I didn't feel like changing everything, I could use underscore to do this. Let's see how. I could use the clone method. That basically looks at an existing object and clones its properties at that point in time, and then you can play with it in a brand new instance. So I'll require underscore above, and then down below here, rather than calling new helpers.validApplication, I'll just clone it. In some ways, this is clearer. In other ways, it's a little hacky. It's up to you. Either way, when I rerun the tests, it works. In fact, all our tests work the way we expect because we are now using separate instances. So this is a good example, once again, of our tests driving us to use tools, driving us to use patterns, pulling our hair out and rethinking what we're doing. If I had to sum up this entire experience, I would say that singletons and caching in Node can equal pain. In fact, twice now we have been bitten by Node's caching of modules. And I think our tests are trying to tell us to stop doing that, to make sure that we always return instances from our modules, even if they are helpers. Yeah, I think that's good advice.